So, I'm going to spice things up a little bit. This is actually a full video. I'm going to read exactly 666 seconds in a video of this book. And we're going to see how this goes, because I want to bring some more classiness to my my content. And this is about as classy as it goes. Now, for all those who know, classy, you can't drink Budweiser, you can't drink that swill. No Budweiser allowed. You have to have White Claw. For it is the classiest of all liquids. And if it wasn't for White Claw, I wouldn't drink freaking water. It's delicious. Okay. So the book we're going to be reading is Vector Analysts by Jack C. Haldeman II. And we shall begin. Now this book is an old book. It was written in 1977. Let us begin. They soared, the mountains rose behind them, rough jagged crests, framing a huge ball of orange fire. Twin moons hung low in the western sky. The desert stretched out below them, sweeping patterns of wind and wind-blown sand. Small plants, stunted trees casting long shadows in the morning light. They flew together, a habit from long years of association, gently catching the thermals, crossing the edge of the desert in long, sweeping curves. This sounds awesome, don't it? Their multifaceted eyes scanned the ground, alert for movement, alert for food. Occasionally, they communicated with the sound, a cross between a squawk and a wail. It's like a squeal! Squeal! I imagine that's what that was. It bounced between canyon walls, echoed out across the desert floor. They were lords of the planet, kings of the wind and storm. In the air, they were invincible without enemies. Only on the ground did they know danger. Page 1. Here's page number, I think it's 2. This is page 2. Page 2. Up, yep. Stay aloft for hours, drifting, coasting with barely perceptible movements of their flattened bodies. Manta's touch of a pterodactyl. Skimming the high winds in the morning sun, they looked more like a manta rays from Earth than anything else, yet they were built for the sky and not the water. The sky was home. The sky was home, their air was domain. Even the wingspan of over 12 meters, they weighed less than 90 kilograms. I don't know how much that is. I think it's like roughly, 3 pounds a kilogram? 3.6. So just going to go like 90 pounds. They were big boys. Their bones were hollow reeds, their skin tough, lightweight. Moving with the fluid grace, their bodies caught and reflected the early sun. Their shadows chased each other in the warming sand. The planet had a name, a number, a certain list of characteristics and coordinates, carefully recorded in books and computers back on Earth. It had been identified, cataloged, photographed, and scanned by remote probes. That's creepy, ain't it? It hung in the minds of men who were concerned with such things like the insect skewered on a pin, tucked away in a box stuffed with cotton. I have no idea what that feels like. The mantis knew nothing of this and wouldn't have cared. They were secure, dominant. They knew only of food, thirst, and hunger, warmth, cold, physical needs and conditions that were either satisfied or endured. These are some smart flying fish. They were static creatures living their lives in unhurried routine. How different they were from the warm-blooded furry animals that fed upon and rabid quadrupeds that scuttled on the ground with hearts that beat too fast, lived lives that were too short. Other creatures shared the sky with the mantas, neither food nor threat ignored. Near the ground, small animals flew, insects buzzed. Higher, where the air grew thin and cold and gossamer. No idea what that means. Jellyfish-like organisms twisted, then drifted through their lives away, breaking apart and reforming. This is where I want to take a water break. My liver feels so much better. They were nearly transparent, insubstantial. The mantas often passed directly through their bodies with no harm to either. Often flying along with mantas were small, feathery creatures that looked like a cross between a butterfly and a suction cup. They would adhere to various places on the mantis skin, scoop small organisms from the air as they rode along, so they're freeloaders. The mantis ignored them, and they were trivial below notice. They're definitely freeloaders. The wheel of evolution was slowly turning on this named and numbered planet. The mantis days were dying out. This was the process of men in some other corner of the universe was a little concern to them. Their awareness was one of wind, the rising sun, the smell of showers from the east. The male saw it first. The split second before his mate, a shadow movement a kilometer away or more, a short, jerky movement that meant food. Food, glorious food. In unison, they banked to the left and began a swift and silent descent. In the shadows, on the still, cool sand, the furry mammal, the mantis above him, was looking for food. In his case, it was grubs, ew, and berries, yum, on the sharp thorn plants, small, crunchy things that buried in the sand. Finding a small nest of swarming insects, he had become excited, overcome by desire to feed. He pushed the sand away with his forepaws, rooted deeper in his long snout, blindly feeding. He became careless, stepped into the sun. It was this action that pinpointed him to the mantas. The shadow was a trail, an arrow pointing directly at him. He never had a chance. The male dropped back as usual. So the female, and this is where I take another water break, because water's good for the liver. Tasty water. Sponsor me, White Claw. Him first. Glancing below with her unsheathed talons that sent the small creature sprawling across the sand. Before he had stopped rolling, the male manta lifted him into the air, the grip that close around his chest like a vice. On this primitive world, life was a fragile thing. Death was the rule. Death was the rule, as in with everybody's life. The unwary died suddenly. No-brainer. The cautious died slowly. The difference was survival and life. Most basic terms, the ability to live, to reproduce, to perpetuate the species. Swinging in the sky, the small dead bundle of fur has lost his battle, his one chance. Aww. His kind was adaptable and might yet rule the planet, but for now it was the mantis' turn as they headed back to the roost to feed. They knew no fear. These are some pretty beaching manta rays, I gotta tell you this. They're pretty hardcore, they're pretty badass. And because they knew no fear, it was with curiosity more than alarm that they viewed the strange new sun burning out in the sky. It wasn't food. Couldn't possibly be danger. Not in the sky. No, not the least. As the probe snarled them in the plexi steel net, they stuck out with rage. They only started to feel fear as it slowly drew to them, opening in its belly. But then it was too late! The small mammal, forgotten and released in the struggle, fell through the gaps in the net and tumbled to the desert floor. The body would be devoured by the grubs it had been feeding upon. Inside the probe, two men worked quickly and efficiently. After 6 months of orbiting the planet, they had finally collected all their specimens. They had also mapped nearly every square kilometer of the planet's surface and went down 12 ground probes, unmanned mobile scientific stations. 11 had functioned perfectly, with only spectrographic data missing from the 12th. The amount of information they gathered in such short period of time was staggering. Even they were impressed by how smoothly things have gone. Besides being stored in the onboard computers, all their data had been relayed to the satellite placed in the orb beyond the second moon. Insurance in case anything happened to the two men. Everything is in a backup system. That's smart. Even allowing for the required margin of safety, the men were cutting things close. Collecting specimens of dominant species was the last thing on their mission profile. They wanted to do it right. A mated pair. They were more than satisfied. Already dumb mantis, the two mammals, had it subdued and restrained, snug in the belly of the probe. They were surrounded by a slowly thickening gel that would cushion them against the acceleration forces they would soon encounter. One of the men was busy punching numbers into the computer, while the other floated across the room, working for a checklist strapped to his left wrist. They were working silently, without talking. They have been together a long time, and all little bits of conversation have been exhausted. Their mission was all that remained. Their part in it was almost over. In roughly 3 hours and 27 minutes, exactly, that's pretty pinpoint, they would fire the large rockets that would take them out of orbit and accelerate them towards a distant, ravenous point. There, the Ion Drive mothership, that's some fancy fucking freaking wording, would pick them up and swing back towards Earth. And that is where we're going to end. And yeah, that was pretty much the first 10 pages of the book Vector Analysis. I hope that you enjoyed that, because I sure did.